Gene Simmons. That's not my given name.
It's Chaim.
Yeah, but that doesn't work. Chaim.
Yeah, it's hard to chant. Was it Gene Simmons, the music guy, or Gene Simmons, the famous actress?
It just came.
You're in a costume.
Yeah.
You're elevating on stage.
You had to create your own persona. I must have seen an image of London after midnight, and I remember the shadows on the face scared the bejesus out of me. You take bits and pieces of your DNA, your stuff that you grow up with, and you put it together.
You're a man of wealth and taste. You've done pretty well for yourself.
Wealth is relative.
Not really. Well, I suppose it. I suppose everything's relative.
If
in that
you're
way.
around Bezos or Elon, you're a speck of dandruff.
You're measly 400 million next to Elon's 400 billion.
I never said I'm worth 400 million.
No, but Wikipedia does, and they can't be wrong.
Oh, of course not.
But here's my question.
Yeah.
You get up. You're 75 years old.
Yep.
You suffer through an hour, 45 minutes of traffic to come here. You don't know me. I mean, maybe you know of me.
Sure I do.
Maybe you followed my entire... I have no idea. But I know that a lot of people, if they imagine themselves in your position with your life,
Yeah.
what are you doing, man? Why are you out in the world? Why are you on podcasts? Why are you still out there?
I'm busier and work now more than ever. I have a Gene Simmons band, a labor of love. We're doing an American tour starting April, all across America. We show up with guitar picks, and that's it. Everything is just bare bones, the way we started, the old-fashioned way.
No guitars? Just the picks?
No, I'm sorry. Somebody carries the guitar.
Four dudes walk on stage with nothing but picks. I'm going to demand a refund.
The idea being that the amplifiers, yes, I have that too, the amplifiers and the drums and everything are provided for us. They fly us in, or we drive, and then we play. You should go to genesimmons.com to find all the dates.
We're there right now, I think.
And
Look
you
at
can
this.
go to shopgenesimmons.com. He's scrolling too fast for me, but what am I going to do? Keep going down, keep going down. No, that's up the other way. There you go. So you go to shopgenesimmons.com. I own the money bag logo. I own the Bitcoin. See all those logos? I own all the trademark to all of them, including the euro, the pound sign. Yes, I do.
You're not answering my question, man.
I never touched her.
Why? Muscle memory, reflex.
We have restaurant chains, Rock and Brews, 2 of them at LAX, across America, a film company, Simmons Hamilton. The first one is Deepwater with Sir Ben Kingsley, and big stuff.
You're in business
Aaron
with Ben
Eckhart.
Kingsley? That Ben Kingsley?
Forget about it. Yes, Sir Ben Kingsley.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Renee
man.
Harlan directing, and the second one's with Bella Thorne and Mel Gibson. They come one right after the other. Look, you're running a race because life, in essence, is a race. And, we're young. We don't care. We don't know what it's about. And you just cruise. Aren't you like I am? As you see the finish line, don't you speed up?
Sure.
I'm 75. How many years more do I have left? I don't know.
Unclear.
A year, 10 years, 20, 30, whatever it is. I get up every day earlier. This morning I was up at, so help me God, on my children. I was up 5 a.m. Yeah.
On purpose?
No, just my eyes. I can't wait to get started. Read, be a sponge.
So the notion of retirement, does it even mean anything?
No, it's somebody made up 64 as retirement age. In Greece, it used to be 54. And then when the government tried to move it up to 60 because it doesn't make financial sense, they started burning tires on the streets. Well, what do you want to do with your life? Do nothing. I want to retire. And do what? You get up after you poop and wipe. Not everybody wipes.
Not everybody gets up before they do that either.
Yeah. What are you going to do the rest of the day? There's eating, and what? Smelling the grass on the lawn and everything. No, you got to do something. I want to be able to. The pharaohs were not good guys. They enslaved people, they tortured people, but they had the same will to live that winners do.
But is the will to live, I mean, I think that's instinctual. And
Achievement. not just living.
That's different.
That's right.
Work ethic is different.
Yes.
Right? Than the will to live.
Yes.
The will to work, the desire to work.
Yes.
The compunction to drag your 75-year-old bag of bones into your car and drive yourself over here to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about. Is it curiosity? Like, are you a curious person?
About everything. I admire all kinds of people that do things that I can't do. And I want to find out why I'm not doing it or not doing it as well.
For example, who do you admire who you've never met?
Oh, anybody. Elon, Bezos, these guys started with nothing. Elon especially came from South Africa, not a happy home, had a brother and so on, and they moved to Canada, and somewhere along the line, scientists like to call it singularity or something. Some flicker went off, and then nothing was going to stop the guy. But I mean nothing. Bezos also started off with nothing and just had this kind of notion about this idea of this Amazon thing. Go to some place. I mean, it's really a simple idea when you think about it. And all the big movements in technology and inventions and so on were started by individuals, not corporate entities, not governments. Alexander Graham Bell, Mr. So-and-so coming here, and Edison with his team inventing things, just individuals who have this scratch that they can't, this itch that they can't scratch, this thing, and they're never satisfied.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I saw a biography on Kiss years ago, and I think you and Paul both were trying to explain the singularity in terms of the moment where somebody said, okay, we're going to call ourselves Kiss, we're going to wear makeup.
Yep.
Right? And like, that wasn't, I mean, that came from some other place.
Some other place, because there was nothing, we didn't have a resume, no experience, no nothing. We knew. Somehow you may not know what it is, but you know it when you see it and feel it. And it's difficult to teach that kind of thing. I used to be a 6th grade teacher, and the thing that I tried to teach most is about trusting your gut, this thing. And so if you see a kid in school doodling, put away your pencil. I'm going, no. As long as you can do your work and you're doodling, I'm going to give you paperwork. Don't stop the mind from wandering. It's this kind, like, we're born and we're like the ping pongs in a ping pong machine. No, let them play. Don't do this kind of straight line thing. Because when you take a look at the most successful people, it was not a linear line. One of the popes was in Hitler Youth, and from there, advanced and so on, became a pope. And Schwarzenegger came from Austria, where his parents were Nazis, and couldn't speak a word of English, and had this thought about, I'm going to build up my body, and that's going to be my way out of this small world, because I have bigger ideas about life. And he became the world's most, whatever it is, muscle guy, Mr. Olympic many times over, and then became the governor of California.
And he's not
the
done.
5th largest economy on planet Earth, ahead of Italy and England.
Well, maybe not right now at this particular second, but it's up there for sure.
Yep.
This seems a stupid question, probably, because obviously music was...
Actually, I don't think there is such a thing when you think about it.
Oh, see how you feel maybe a half hour from now.
Okay.
Soon may the noblemen come to bring a bottle for everyone. One day when the waiting is done, we'll take a drink and go.
Music seems to be your way out in the way that working out was Arnold's way out. But it could have been magic. It could have been painting.
I would have succeeded in anything I wanted to do.
You believe that?
Oh, there's no question about it.
Tell me why. Where's that certainty come from?
I think it's worth noting that the tightrope walker, and all champions do this. They work. I'm going to do it. I'm going to win. You got to hype yourself up. You can't wait for somebody to hype you up. I'm going to do this. In football, sometimes you get the gipper. Okay, let's get out there and show them. And you're depending on somebody else. If you are your own gipper, as they say, and can hype yourself up, you're actually contributing greatly to your success. So if you're going to walk a tightrope, and your mindset is everything, including the will to live, Doctors haven't figured that one out yet. If you don't have the will to live, you're going to die fast. You live. You gotta live. It releases the right endorphins and got whatever that's called. But you're about to walk a tightrope, and you start thinking thoughts like, there's a pretty good chance. Makes no sense. I'm probably going to fall off in the middle. You just contributed to your downfall. The chances are, mindset is everything before. And if you have the mind, I can do this. I'm going to get to the other side because I've got stuff to do and I got this and and you go out there like a champion, more than likely you're going to win.
Permission to complicate the metaphor just a little.
Meta 5, inflation.
Okay, I like the tightrope, but is there a safety net?
No.
Or no?
No. The safety net is you're going to fail at that, and you're going to fail miserably, but you don't die. And what doesn't kill you makes you strong. So you can fail at something, try something else.
But that's what the safety net is. If you fail and fall,
Yeah.
and there's a safety net, the consequence of falling is...
Failing means nothing.
That's right. There's no... So in a world where there's no consequence to failure, does failure even have a definition?
The reason you have a huge advantage in America is because you cannot fail. If you don't have any money, if you're homeless, God forbid, and all that, there are places that'll take you in and provide bed, clothing, food and shelter. Churches, Salvation Army, you can get by. And you can wash dishes and slowly work your way up in capitalism. And if you succeed and you get the rug pulled out from under you and there's no money left and all that stuff, you can declare legally Chapter 7 and Chapter 11 and start all over again.
Have you ever done that? Have you
Never, no.
You never?
I would never do that because you're shortchanging the people who gave you their money to invest. I couldn't do that.
You came over here with your mom when you were, what, 6, 7 years old?
When I was 56. No, I was 8. Actually, I was 8 before I was 9.
And here I was thinking you were something different, something special. 8 leads to 9. You're with your mom. Your old man had left, so it's just the two of you.
He got up and walked out one day. Sadly, it is more common than not. In one of the books I wrote called Me Inc., the statistics are horrific and shaming men in the Hispanic, but especially in the African-American community. 75% of African-American women who have children, whether they're married or not, have no father figure at home. And then you wonder why the kids turn out badly. In the Caucasian something, it's like 55%. Of course you got lost children.
How should we think about men who walk out on their families?
Well, the law should hold them accountable. Whether it's an accident of birth or not, you've got an innocent child, and whether it's an absent dad or not, you've got to at least financially provide.
When did you fall in love with America?
When I saw Superman, we came on El Al Airlines, propellers in those days, 1958. Maybe it was 1858. I'm not sure.
Don't they go buying a
And
blank?
all I remember is my mother saying, "We're just going one stop." I had no idea, but I was throwing up the whole time. I remember this. Throwing up, eating a cracker or something, and then falling asleep. Then getting up, throwing up. And we landed, and I remember seeing a billboard. Now, you got to remember, when you come from Israel, you have no idea about Christianity or anything else. You never heard of that as an 8-year-old kid. All we saw were the Israelis, the Jews, and some Arabs who walked down the street. That's all you knew. There's no television. I never heard of television. We didn't have a radio.
This is in Haifa.
In Haifa. We are in Tirat HaKarmel, which is the village of Carmel, the biblical Carmel, same one. I lived right at the foot with my mother. Yeah. And I was introduced at about 8.5, a little more, to television. And I remember thinking, I promise you this is true, I thought we were at our Uncle George's house, and he was successful. Of course, he's Jewish. And we went Statistics bear it out. If you have a problem with that, just check the statistics.
Listen,
it doesn't lie.
And I mean, the proper pronunciation of your given name is
Chaim.
Okay.
Which, when you hear Jews or other people say L'chaim, which means to life, you're actually saying to life. That's the toast. That is the only toast Jews do, which is ultimately, invariably, and other big words like gymnasium. That's all there is. Everything else is just smoke and mirrors. If you're alive, you have the gift of everything, and then it's what you do with it. So I went to my Uncle George's house with my mother. It's her brother. And I remember walking in, and there was a man on television, black and white, and you can see a close-up of his head. And I thought there was a guy in the box. Like in those days, a television set was a long piece of furniture. On one side was booze, on the other side. So it was like 6 feet long.
Right.
And I thought there was a guy inside the box, talk. I didn't know what he was saying. I didn't speak English.
Right.
And then we went to my Uncle Larry's house. My Uncle George, her brother, was a prosthetologist. He made bridges, teeth, and balls for those that had problems. Yes, he made prosthetic balls.
Prosthetic testicles?
Yes, and my first job was carrying around paper bags
full of artificial testicles.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
What a job that is.
I made $20 a week, and I couldn't believe it. Yes.
What was the ball carrying job called?
A delivery boy. I don't know.
I mean,
I learned
a bagman?
Very good. And I had to learn how to subways and I didn't know anything. I couldn't speak English. So I go to my Uncle Larry's house, her other brother, who's a huge, successful baker.
Now, he has his testicles.
No, that's Uncle George, who's the dental prosthetologist.
Okay.
This guy had a huge bakery business, so I gained a lot of weight because when the Glad bags came out, the plastic garbage things, which I'd never seen before, he used to come every weekend. It would be filled with Danish, and of course I gorged everything. But I remember walking in, and the first thing I saw on the way in, it was the kitchen. I don't know why it was there. And my Aunt Magda opened the kitchen door, and there was a refrigerator. We never had a refrigerator. It was like a closet, and there was a piece of ice in it. And you couldn't keep milk or anything because the iceman would come and give you a piece of ice. There was nothing to plug in.
Sure.
In Israel. The outhouse literally was a hole outside. I know this all sounds like you're making it up.
No. I just got to rein you in a little bit because we were just in the States looking at a piece of furniture with a TV in the middle, and there was a Superman in there. And then we got sidetracked with the testicular delivery system. And now I'm back in Haifa with a piece of ice in the freezer. It's difficult.
It's my problem is I love the sound of my own voice, really. So she opens the refrigerator door, and I see more food than I've ever seen, and I'm attracted to the color red, and it's Schmuckers. Yes, it was back then.
With a name like Schmuckers, it has to be good.
Yeah.
That was Mason Adams, by the way, who did that voiceover.
And it was with, God, what was the bald guy on NBC every morning? Fred...
Willard? No.
Fred Willard.
Was it Fred
who
Willard?
was the first Ronald McDonald.
Kidding.
This is what I'm here for.
Wow.
All kinds of stuff. I'm an only child, so I have a lot of time. I actually read the Encyclopedia Britannica from cover to cover.
In what language?
English.
Okay.
Teaching myself how to read and write
That's
English.
how you learned English, reading the...
No, it's by reading comic books.
Now we're getting back to Superman, and it's all going to come together. Keep going.
So I happened to walk by, there was another TV, but I was like a double take. And there's a guy flying in the sky with like a towel, a red cape or something on his back. And not only had I never seen or heard anything like that, I never imagined a human being being able to fly through the air without propellers or anything, just by himself. What kind of a place is this? And right outside my Aunt Magda's house, they lived on a suburban street. Well, there were paved roads. We didn't have paved roads, and there were cars going both ways. There were just donkeys doing stuff. It was like another
It's just
planet.
magical. So there's unlimited food. There's a whole
Not
new-
only unlimited food, I went to the first supermarket within a week. Somebody had to walk me across the street because I was afraid to death. All these cars. I didn't know about green light, red light. And you walk into like a city of food. The food went higher, like avenues and boulevards of food. More food than you could ever imagine, with colors and pictures of what was inside of it. It was insane. And once I saw Superman, I go, yeah, it's. I come from the promised land, but there's something going on here. This is the place.
So the notion of being able to appreciate this country, and you've said this to me before, but it's worth repeating. So much of it is made easier if you come from a place where the roads
your
are
perspective.
dirt. Yeah.
Your perspective. If you're born in America over a few generations, I think of it as everybody's got a mirror. And perspective means the closer you are to the mirror, the less you actually see of your face. Eventually, all you see are your two eyes. Pull back a little bit more, you can see your nose. Perspective is if you've been poor and had that empty belly feeling and people are trying to kill you or hate you, the perspective is very clear because you've got this is what the rest of the world is. This country, no matter what, if you're black, white, no matter what, the rest of the world hates each other. There's still racism and hatred in this country, but there's I didn't know it at the time, the Constitution and Bill of Rights and all that, despite man's tendency for evil, this wonderful idea of the Constitution and the amendments and so on keep pulling us back to a more civilized area. I've always been, you had Nixon and everything, then you had Barack Obama. Barack Obama went up there. Now we have Mr. Trump.
You can say it, yeah.
Who I knew before he became a political animal.
I bet.
And he's neither a Democrat. His closest friends were Bill and Hillary. They came to his wedding. So don't kid yourself about that.
Well, I've heard you say this before. In full disclosure, I said it myself. We had a movie out last July, and I made a point of saying it was called Something to Stand For, and it was unapologetically patriotic. But I made a point of saying, look, this is not. I didn't write it for my friends on the right or the left. I wrote it for Americans.
Yeah.
And so it seems an increasingly skinnier cohort these days to find people who first and foremost identify as the A word, right, instead of the R word or the D word. But that seems to be a thing that might be worth getting back to.
If you study history, whatever the political divide is in this country, it's nothing. Go back to when Lincoln became the president, and you will see the hatred of brother against brother that resulted in the Civil War.
Now, that was a situation at the border, for real. That was a real border problem. But you're right.
But if you go back, there were all kinds of shenanigans. If you study the founding fathers, the blackmail and the stuff that went on between them, there were a lot of problems.
Oh, and the media. I mean, the muckraking in the press.
And that's an old word.
Yeah.
That's right. And they used to do that before there were rules about slander and all this stuff.
Libel.
No, we're doing great. Trust me. The unemployment's going down. You may not agree with the politics of something. Where else are you going to go? If there's a strike in France, you cannot fire anybody. If there's a strike in France, they will stop traffic in Paris and burn tires and shut the city down. Now, there's no place like, with the scars and the problems, the problem with America is not the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. The problem is people. There are some people that tend to veer towards darkness and some not. That's always going to be part of it, and we have to keep fighting. Take a look at currency, a quarter, a 25-cent piece. It is widely recognized, or a dollar is widely recognized around the world. But those two sides have nothing to do with each other. They don't look alike. If you try to put one image next to the other. They don't look alike at all, but
Right.
they both lay claim to, in other words, the person you completely disagree with on politics, economy, and everything, it's their America too.
And that's the beauty of a coin. It has two sides.
Sure.
There's an obverse and a reverse. And how boring would it be? I'm going to flip a coin. And their heads on both sides? Well, no, nobody would ever flip the coin. I want to go back to Superman for a minute. Because as you were telling me about that.
By the way,
Yeah.
created by Jews. All superheroes, all of them, Superman, Batman, Fantastic Fours, that were created by Jews. The Superman mythology, is the Moses mythology, created by two Jews from Cleveland, as it happened. The Mensch und der Übermensch, the idea being that your home planet, Krypton, and they have Hebrew names, Jor-El, Kal-El, Elal, those are Hebrew names.
Yeah.
They're, of course, they're foreigners. And so their planet is in danger, so they have to escape, just like the pogroms of Europe. And the Jews were always running because there was danger in the home planet. So they sent the child in a manger. You can see him leaning back like a biblical thing. Why would you go through space covered in a little blanket and everything? Just like Moses going down the thing. And so when Kal-El, his given name, is Kryptonian, lands in Earth, what happens? Two Gentiles, mother and father, adopt him. Dress British, think Yiddish. That's exactly what happened with Moses, so the story goes. And by the way, historians are beginning to feel more and more like it happened.
Are we talking about Moses, bulrushes, Aaron, that whole...
His stuttering brother.
Yeah.
Let my people go. That wasn't Moses. That was his brother, because Moses spoke with a stutter and a lisp. Let my people go. No, it was Aaron who said all those things.
It doesn't have the same snap to it.
But I wanted to say that that's what happened. Moses goes down the river, and he gets a foster mother. Yeah, it's dress British, think Yiddish.
Well, what I'm thinking is that there you are, 8.5 years old. You see this Superman, and he's in costume.
But he has a secret identity.
Yes.
Just like Jews. We change our names. You think I'm Greek? Sure, that's fine with me. Think I'm Italian from the Mediterranean? Of course I am. It's fine. I have no problem with any of that. Gene Simmons, that's not my given name.
It's Chaim.
Yeah, but that doesn't work. Chaim.
Yeah, it's hard to chant.
Yeah, so you have to recognize the shortcomings, financially speaking, because everybody...
Was it Gene Simmons, the music guy, or Gene Simmons, the famous actress?
It just came. There was no stream of conscience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. But what I'm getting at, man, is that you've got this giant impact of the man of steel who changed his name, who flies through the piece of furniture, right? And he's in a costume. And then just a few years later, your name has changed. You're in a costume.
Yeah.
You're elevating on stage. You're are you just channeling your version of Superman this whole time?
I didn't think of it initially, but clearly I didn't look or sound or walk like
Clark Kent.
No, like when I saw the Beatles, that changed my life, because all of a sudden you saw people that looked different, and I did. Not that I was black or Hispanic or anything, but I didn't look like I came from Sweden, as an example. But you saw these little guys, sort of feminine by American standards, because Americans are bigger people. They had better food. Classic English breakfast is beans on toast. Mm-hmm. I'm not making it up. Heinz beans on toast, because in World War II they couldn't afford meat. You learn all kinds of things with Mr. Simmons. And yeah.
Who was wait a minute, that just triggered something too. When you talk about the Beatles as slight, almost effeminate, there was a rock and roll band in New York around the same time as you guys showed up, and they were doing the sort of the glam rock.
New York Dolls.
The Dolls. Now those guys were petite.
Yeah.
you guys looked like a bunch of linebackers, but you were doing the same kind of...
It was called the glitter movement, and it was a special time in New York because at night people would go to work in offices, and at night they'd all dress up and go to hundreds of bars. There were all kinds of bands. It was the beginning of David Bowie and Lou Reed and that kind of thing.
And a kind of androgyny, right?
Yeah, it was okay to wear girls' clothes even though you were straight. And, it was a very exciting period. So we couldn't do the New York doll thing. Right now I'm 6'2" and about 250 pounds. I can't do that thing.
No.
But a football player in a tutu is not very convincing.
No one wants to see that.
My apologies to all you football players who like dressing up in tutus. I support you.
It's a big country.
Go
to
with
each his
God.
own. Let your freak
Do whatever
flag
you want.
fly. Yeah.
But we didn't think we were convincing at it. So you had to create your own persona, not costumes. And what I mean by persona is, if I would have worn red lipstick and put a star on my eye, I wouldn't be convincing because it's not who I am. I don't. Whereas Paul was
did
much
that.
more flamboyant, that way, and had better hair and fluffy and all that stuff, and moved that way on stage. Not me. I'm moved more like Godzilla. And so you have to be clear. And both Ace and Peter, the original guys, veered towards what they felt comfortable with. I mean, in Halloween, if you go to one of these places that have all kinds of costumes, you might tend to pick out a costume.
You'll gravitate.
You'll gravitate towards something you feel comfortable with.
And you were the demon.
We didn't think of it that way. When I put it on, I thought about Lon Chaney Sr., who I was always a big fan of, born Creighton Tull Sr., whose parents were deaf mutes, so he had to learn how to communicate, perfect for silent films. He invented and created the makeup man, not putting on makeup, but, putting in plastic tubing in his nose for Phantom of the Opera.
Like Phantom of the Opera. He was like that whole unmasking
Yes.
thing.
Mary Philbin, who was I'll tell you more than Todd Browning was the director and all that. So I remember that scene where that happened. There were shadows, and I remember the shadows on the face scared the bejesus out of me. So I did a version of the shadows on my face. I must have seen an image of London After Midnight, a Lon Chaney film that has yet to be found. A print of it is lost, but there was a photo of it where Chaney's got a top hat and he's got like bat wings as a kind of a night vampire before Dracula came out. And in the back of my mind, I went, that. You take bits and pieces of your DNA, your stuff that you grow up with, and you put it together, and what you get, people think is original, but it's not. They're bits and pieces of stuff.
For the younger cohort listening out there, it really is difficult to describe just how bananas it was. And like there was no... The only thing I can think of is the New York Dolls that were kind of out there, but
they failed.
You didn't.
Within a year and a half of forming, before the internet, before voicemail, you still had to go to a phone booth on the street to put in a dime and then a quarter, but first a dime in those days to make a phone call. And at a house, you had a rotary call. There were no buttons. There was a beep, beep, beep. Digital was not. In fact, when we first started, it was like Plymouth 5000. It was PL. It were letters, the first two letters, and people say, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, Greenhouse 4 or 5,000, and that was a phone call. Then it became 212 when more and more people. Before then, it was just the 5 numbers. PL 6 numbers. Anyway, one of those before the area codes, and so within a year and a half, we're headlining Anaheim Stadium in L.A. with bands that had been around 15, 20 years before us opening the show. And we came out February of 74 within a few years, we're the Gallup poll, biggest band in the world, 3 years in a row, 77, 78, 79. The second most popular band was the Beatles, and then they were displaced by the Bee Gees and Led Zeppelin. And before anybody did this, we had questionnaires and fun stuff in our albums. Where are you from? What do you do? And you could order T-shirts, belt buckles, all that by putting these little envelopes, colorful things. You check off what you wanted. You put in either $5 or $10 or 5, 10, 20, all in fives. And you look at clothes and you mail it. And before there were bad people at post offices who opened your mail, we got millions of bucks through the mail of people wanting, and we had 4 warehouses in LA that worked 24 hours a day mailing T-shirts and everything to fans around the world.
I've always wanted to ask you, because I've seen the reality show, and I've obviously was a fan over the years, but there's always a line between art and commerce.
I don't think there is.
No?
No.
I mean, the whole starving artist trope, the famous painters who never got paid and never cared.
Well, you don't know if they never cared. I've never heard of anybody who wins the lottery and is sad.
True, but I know a lot of people, whether they mean it or not, who will talk about the filthy lucre and who can't quite square the business of success.
Yeah, but that's one of the big lies of humanity. Money is the root of all evil. It's untrue. That's a lie. Lack of money is the root of all evil. If you don't have any money, you might consider holding up a 7-Eleven for $14.95.
Or perhaps the love of money is the root of all evil.
It is not.
Okay, so money's not the root, not the love of money.
And I can prove it to you.
All right, hit me.
If my only motivation in life is making money, and if I never give a penny to a poor person or a charity or anything, I'm still improving life on earth. And I'll tell you why. I want my yachts, I want my mansions and all that stuff. I create jobs. My money seeds the workforce and enables poor people to feed their families and do that, even if I'm an asshole and never give to charity. A poor person never gave me a job.
Is this like just an artifact? Did I dream it up, or did you release an album called Asshole?
Of course. My album was called Asshole.
God, that's one of the greatest words in the lexicon. I mean, have you ever really broken it down, to think about what that is?
It's supposed to be an insult and all that. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with anybody calling me anything. I really don't. I know that I do good. I know that my mom's okay with me, and that's all the validation I need. I remember walking into...
Wait. Why did you call why was the album called Asshole?
There was a song on it called Asshole. It goes, you're an asshole, maybe I'm an asshole too, is the punchline of the chorus. Mm-hmm. And I thought, yeah. And I was going to tell you the story of why I wanted to call it Asshole. When I walked into Interscope Records, I was co-managing a band with Paul called Crown of Thorns. I came up with that name and created a band. So we got them a deal. And Jimmy Iovine walks in and says, I want you to listen to a thing. It's by a new artist I just signed. His name is Tupac. And I'm saying, is he African or something? No, he's from L.A. or New York. And, oh, great. And it's just a black cover. And it says, for my N-word. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a joke. I thought he was saying, oh, what are you going to call the album? He goes, no, it's going to be called that. I'm saying, you're using the N-word? He goes, yeah. And I'm going, why are you doing that? He says, well, because he's comfortable with that. So the most vile thing you could call an African-American is the N-word. They take possession of it and use it themselves. So what's one of the worst things you can say I am? Asshole. Great. Let's call the album Asshole.
How'd it sell?
Oh, it didn't do great, but it was a time when the entire record industry was changing. But I'll tell you what happened with the album.
Okay.
Bob Dylan and I wrote a song there. We came over and we wrote a few songs. Frank Zappa, last song he co-wrote with me.
Hell of a guitar player, by the way.
Unlike anybody out
I've
there.
never heard the like of it.
Nobody ever.
Garage tapes, yeah, amazing.
But by the way, Zappa was a failure, did not succeed. Never had gold records and platinum records.
Why?
The music didn't connect with people.
I thought you were going to say asshole.
It's eclectic.
I tossed it right to you.
Oh, yeah.
All you had to do was say asshole.
No, he was actually a good, very bright.
Oh,
man.
his testimony in Congress.
Oh.
I would really suggest people go watch that. I mean, he took a principled stand at a difficult time and a very articulate
not a popular
way.
time.
Not a popular time.
The PMRC and censorship and all that.
Yep, that was the Tipper Gore days, right?
Yeah, but we survived that. We survived McCarthyism. We survived the blacklist. We survived all of it. And what doesn't kill you, we're not going to have another blacklist. Nope. People are going to try to do that. There's always somebody who's going to push back on it. You must have a few shows of material on this.
We have literally, none of this is usable, obviously. We have so much good stuff, it's embarrassing. You got somewhere to be? When do you have to go?
I'm trying to make a buck.
You want me to lend you a few? I can spot you
Never
20.
a lender or borrower be.
Do you believe that?
No, I
You
borrow all the time. Oh, sure.
do you?
Debt is great because you can write it off. Oh, no. You've got to have assets because they want assets against it. But debt is good, especially depending on where the Fed is. So I borrowed tens of millions when I was paying 1.1 interest, 1.1%. I'd play that game all day because do I think I can make more than 1.1% on the money I borrow every day? Are you kidding? Even if I put it into a savings account, they'd pay me more. That's pre-tax because I can write off my 1.1%.
You just mentioned it in passing, but you're a crypto guy.
Oh yeah,
You're in the space.
I bought millions when Bitcoin was about 10,900. But I had an advantage because Tyler Winklevoss, one of the two brothers, who started that, they didn't start it. They promoted it very, very early. Satoshi, that guy, who nobody seems to know who he is.
Who is that guy?
So I bought millions at 10,900. Well, we're in the 90s now. It was 105,000, and I firmly believe, my opinion, do your own research. Within 12 months it'll be at 150 to 200,000, because there are very few hedges against inflation. Every day the dollar that you have buys you less and less. And we're printing money left and right. We're sending it to Ukraine, which I support. You do this. You want more money? They just print more because it's no longer based on gold. What's your hedge against inflation? What do? Put your cash in a mattress? So there's real estate, but real estate goes up and down as well. Look what happened to the Palisades in California and all that.
It's why it took you an hour and 40 to get here. It's still chaos
Because Pacific Coast Highway is closed to get to here. Otherwise, I would have been here in 40 minutes. So if you've got money to spare, and you are blessed if that happens, what are you going to do with your money? Don't put it into a savings account, because the bank will give you 2, 3, 4%. You got to pay tax on that, and they'll loan it out for more than that. They're making money on your money. Don't put it into a savings account. Mutual funds are good.
But you said something earlier, and you kind of glossed over it, and I just want to make sure I understand. The business of making a bunch of money is good for the economy, irrespective of whether you give any of it away.
You could be an asshole, never give a penny, and you're still creating jobs.
But just so people understand.
Oh.
Tell me, I don't want you to pat yourself on the back too hard, but your genuine attitudes toward philanthropy, what are you doing with all this excess Geltefreugen?
I don't tug on people's shirt sleeves or anything, and you can go online and find out. Mendingkids.org provides children who can't afford, because they're poor, operations that they sorely need. I contribute millions. I've got 1,400 kids in Zanzibar and Zimbabwe. And you can look it up.
Yep.
And they,
We'll find it.
Gene Simmons,
Mendingkids.org.
well,
There you go.
yeah, it breaks your heart. But can you go to Gene Simmons supports children in Africa, 1400s.
1,400 kids.
Yeah, the idea is very simple. We'll give you as much food as you can digest and do, and you can take some food home, but you can't have a morsel, nothing, unless you come to school. If you come to school, you get food. And in Africa, in the worst areas where there's no infrastructure and everything.
Look at you without sunglasses. What happened there?
Well, I wear it most of the time because the sun never sets on planet cool. So
There's your title.
these
Chuck.
children, you're not taught that education is the way out of poverty. It's the only chance you've got, really. Because where there's no infrastructure, you can't speak any other language, you speak an African dialect, you have no job skills, you're going to starve. So I try to help. There was a young child who had aspirations, she must have been 14, of wanting to go to university to become a doctor because she wanted to come back to her village and treat the females, to teach them not to have sex with these males who didn't care, because AIDS is, the numbers are off the charts. These guys would just have sex and then run off. So you have single mothers with children and they have AIDS. I saw a 14-year-old mother carrying her child on her back, and they both were AIDS sufferers. Yeah. So she wanted to go to university and get a degree and come back and be a teacher and a healer. I said, all you have to do is do well in high school and all that. I'll pay for your entire, I'll fly you to whichever university you want to go to, as long as you come back. Also, I stopped giving out Christmas gifts for anybody, everybody. Used to give out hundreds and hundreds, ties people don't wear and
Yeah, sure.
all that stuff. And so in people's names, I contribute to Kiefer.org or Heifer.org. And what they are two micro banks connected to large banks that loan money to single mothers in Africa and other places, loan the money interest-free, so that these single mothers can dig a hole in the ground and get a well or buy a cow that changes the entire economy. You can have milk and, they literally bleed the cow and drink the milk, and it's actually a source of protein and all this kind of stuff in Africa. We can't imagine it, but that's what they do.
Wait, but they drink the milk or they drink the blood?
With both. Yeah. Once they make enough money, they have to give the money back, no interest. And then the money gets loaned out again.
That's my point. You're going to look at consequences because that's who you are, and you're going to look at it through a lens of a kind of commerce, because commerce is consequential as well. So your philanthropy comes with certain conditions. And I only make the point because on a much smaller level, my foundation will give away a few $1 million this week in work ethic scholarships.
Right.
And, I get a lot of pushback on it because I don't want to help people who don't share my fundamental view of the world. And I'm not sure if that makes me what that makes me, but because I get to choose, that's what I want to do. And that's what I want to ask you, maybe about work ethic.
Yeah.
And what that really, what's it mean to you? What's it meant to you?
Well, to have a job, I've heard people marching, I have a right to have a job. No, you don't. If you have a job, it's a blessing. You don't have a right to have health care. You don't have the right to have a job. You have the right to have a big fat mouth and freedom of press. There's nothing in the Constitution or anything that says you have the right to have a job and health care. No, you have to earn money. Well, in Norway, they have health. I know. There are 12 people that live there. We have 330 million. we're already $36 trillion in debt.
Big number.
Not counting the 10, 20, or 25 million illegal immigrants in America that are either a positive or a drain on the economy. It's just everything, it's like dominoes. Everything affects everything else. And you can always hold up a crying child. I know, I was one of them. And make any point you like, and you're an asshole if you don't agree with my point of view. See, there's a baby crying. You can make any point you want. I don't suffer fools lightly. See, there are people, a lot of them, who are looking for jobs. And I'm much more interested in people who are looking to work. The love of labor itself is what it is. And most people, you have to understand this, most people on the face of the planet, if they're blessed to have a job they hate. The only reason they're working at the job is it gives them money at the end of the week, which supports their family, and so they bring the money back and their children have what to eat. This idea that I have to be inspired, it's such bullshit. That's the Beverly Hills Blues. You know how that goes? Bum, ba, da, da, my limo is late. Bum, ba, da. I got the Beverly Hills Blues. It's all bullshit. I can't do something if I don't believe in it. No. The roads you travel on and the buildings you live in, they're worked on by people who hate their jobs. But bless the money that they get at the end of the week so they can survive.
How do you think about work ethic in your industry? Like you mentioned Bob Dylan.
He's out there all the time.
Yeah. What about
you? Sorry,
what's right and wrong with music today?
Well, fame is fleeting. Anybody will tell you that. You can mention big acts that had #1 records, and the public is fickle. Everybody Wang Chung tonight. That was a #1 record.
Right.
So fame is fleeting, and never put all your eggs in one basket. If you go to Las Vegas and you play, what is it when you put I never
Roulette?
gamble. Yeah, roulette. What are you going to do? Put all the money on one thing, or spread the risk?
Diversify your portfolio.
Yeah, that's it.
Diversify
Wall Street,
your risk.
Yeah. Don't put your eggs in one basket. You could win big, but you can get wiped out. I don't know about you, but I don't like losing at all. I prefer to win a little than lose anything.
I think that's smart, but I think the genius part of your career is that you still surprise people. I saw you in a movie. It was Reagan.
I was really happy to have been asked by the Stylistics. Remember the Stylistics?
Oh, sure.
Tons of hits. I'm on the new record. I sing lead. Yes, I do. You betcha. That's coming out. I think it just came out. And Shania Twain's on it, Ronnie Wood, Billy Gibbons, lots of cool stuff.
That's terrific, man.
Yeah, I'm the luckiest bastard who ever walked upright.
Well, look, you worked hard. You diversified. You took chances when it made sense to take them.
Yeah.
You've been generous with your time. You're still curious.
And then you die. That's all there is.
And then you die.
That's it. But they're going to have to drag me kicking and screaming because unless and if you really enjoy life,
then
end it. Then get out of the way. There are so many other people, who will fight like hell to stay alive. You either appreciate it or not. I know there's mental illness and all. Okay, I get it. I never understood. I was unkind without really meaning to be in the early years. I remember watching TV shows and movies where there's a guy on top of a tall building threatening to jump. Before I understood anything, I'm going, shut the fuck up, just jump. What are you waiting for, an audience?
Yeah.
Who are you? If you want to die, then jump. And I had to be educated. No, you don't understand. He's got a mental problem. But I still don't understand, by the way, if you're suicidal, why it has to be a public event. I don't understand it because I'm suspiciously a happy-go-lucky guy every day. Nothing Nothing bothers me. My health, never had an operation, hardly ever get sick. Got a little wheezy kind of thing, but I don't stay in bed.
Never smoked, never drank, no drugs.
The other thing, kids, is if you don't smoke or drink or get high, then you can get to be 75 and hold your hand in front of your face, and it won't do that. Yes. See what happens?
But this is my shooting hand.
Oh, yes.
The Waco Kid. Yeah.
That was very good.
Thank you.
Helmed, written, and directed by Jew.
God, they're everywhere. Hey.
It is so suspicious that all of American pop culture, except glorious and amazing, the music that we listen to, pop culture, is black music. All the variations thereof.
Yeah.
Except parts of country music, which came from Irish jigs and so on and so forth. But predominantly jazz, blues, rock, it's black music.
Right. Uniquely American.
Uniquely American
Jazz.
by the least qualified people, the least educated former slaves who could barely play their instruments and just came up with this amazing thing. Now, everything else in pop culture is Jews. All the movie studios.
Now you're whispering?
Every single one.
An hour in and you're whispering?
Jews because they came from Judea, or the Hebrews because they came from Hebron. All of the movie studios, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal, were all created by Jews who lived within a 500 square mile area in Europe, Poland, Russia, and all that stuff, didn't know each other, came to America, settled in New York. One made fox fur coats, Fox, which became 20th Century Fox. All he did was buy fox tails and everything from Canada and took pre-existing coats and put one and one together, and fox coats. 1 and 1 equals 3. That's how he made his money. The guys that old Nickelodeons and everything in New York, Jews. And they all came and settled within a 15 square mile area, didn't know each other. Mayer, all these guys, Goldwyn, who was originally Goldfish, was his original name. He stole his last name, Wynn, from the Selwyn brothers when they had a deal together, and they created MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, and Paramount, Universal, all created by Jews. The beauty of the Jewish Hollywood system, Hollywood is Jewish, created by them, is they didn't make Jewish movies. They were clear. There's only 14 million Jews on the entire planet today. They understood and respected the idea, let's make King of Kings, let's make Christian movies and stuff, and don't put lead characters with names like Ira. Hey, Moshe, what are you going to do? Nope. This is going to be for the people who actually buy the tickets.
Well, since you brought it up, is that what your music was all about? Was it were you writing to satisfy what you believed the audience wanted?
Absolutely.
What did you want, though?
Well, I was also fascinated I was an Anglophile. I loved what the English did with American black music. The Beatles covered Motown. They covered, Carl Perkins, Chuck Berry, and all that. It's black music. But they did it their way. But I liked what the English did with American pop music and all that stuff, and including the heavy stuff. Led Zeppelin. Jimmy, who became a friend, Jimmy Page, had to pay off some of the blues guys because he would literally, he admitted, ripped off the, all those licks. Yeah, not that one in particular, but something very close. And but the other thing is that in the music industry, the record labels were Jewish. Sun Records, Sam Phillips, they were Jews. They loved black music. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Written by 2 Jews from New York, Lieber Stoller. They hated Jewish music, Broadway. They loved black music. So these 2 Jews from New York, Lieber and Stoller, are sitting around having a deli sandwich, pastrami, give me a little more pickle and everything. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Yeah. And they... That's what happens later.
No.
So that's the magic that the Brill Building with all these writers, Neil Sedaka was one of the writers, they were writing songs for the other people, and
The Goyim.
that's not a negative. It's simply me. It's not like the Christian or Islamic heathen, which is, or infidel, which looks down on it. A Gentile simply says they're not Jewish.
Yeah. Well, I guess in the end, it's a story of reinvention. Every single thing we've talked about.
We all should be. Otherwise, we're just copies of our mothers and fathers. You know, as we're born, you get a clean slate, and you can write whatever you want on it.
Well, you have filled up your slate with some pretty interesting stuff, brother.
So far, so good.
If you like what you heard,
And even if you don't,
won't you please,
pretty please,
subscribe?
Well, I hate to beg and I hate to plead, but please, pretty frickin'